Look, Doc, I know it's on short notice, but Oh, we'll continue this conversation in a sec. Hello, everybody. I know you're waiting for the chapter to start, and I'll do it, but, you gotta understand. I really gotta find a way to keep Trixie distracted. That means, conjuring up an emergency only she could stop. So, give me a sec. Look, I know Trixie. She's a huge fan of magical girl shows. She loves the ever-loving heck out of them, especially when they involve magic. And so is Starlight. So, how about you send down a couple of monsters towards them, and they'll have fun, they'll have a great friendship adventure, and it'll probably distract them for a while. What do you mean magical monsters aren't your forte and actually giant monster? Um, which stock am I talking to? Dr. Hell? From Monster Z. That Dr. Hell? Hey, Doc, you wouldn't believe that I was joking and I didn't really want you to send giant monsters to Las Vegas to cause rampage and destruction with you. Beep! Well, I can see where this is going to go. Well, I hope Trixie has fun with the adventure. And I hope Princess Celestia doesn't find out I may have caused an interdimensional accident. Okay, guys. Promise you won't squeal, alright? If you do, I'll think of giving you something nice. Like the rest of this chapter. Probable Cases, Part 1. Twilight! Twilight found it strangely easy to focus on the following morning, for as long as she had something to keep her occupied at least. She and Trixie awoke together in smiling silence, neither of them sparing a word to spoil the moment of closeness that obviously meant as much to Trixie as it did to Twilight. It was the most preferable wake-up to the panic attack right the night before. Maybe it helped to have talked with the princess, or perhaps it was just because of the soothing, sleepy smile that Trixie wore. The silence drew out for most of the morning, but didn't become uncomfortable at any point. They freshened themselves up, shared a few words over breakfast, and, in what seemed like no time at all, they found themselves climbing up into the royal chariot which awaited them outside the hotel. It was only then, as the chariot took to the sky, and Twilight was left with nothing to do besides sit and wait, that she began to feel uneasy. The thoughts from the night before began to resurface, as he found herself staring wistfully across at her partner. She knew it was far from the best time for this conversation, but that didn't change the fact that she really wanted to know what Trixie thought. Against her better judgment, she opened her mouth to speak. Hey, Trixie. The showmare gave her an attentive smile. Twilight hesitated and glanced down at the chariot floor. What do you think you'll do after the display? She asked, trying to make herself sound casual. Trixie blinked. Afterwards, She trailed off. Smile quickly disappeared. I haven't really thought about it. You haven't? Looking out to one side, Trixie adopted a thoughtful frown. I'll probably stay in Manhattan for a while. Make the most of being here, And there's a stable on the other side of town that I like. Twilight gulped consciously. And after that, she said, finding it difficult to get the words out of her mouth. I'm guessing you'll want to take your show back on the road? With a slow nod, Trixie lowered her gaze to the floor. Probably. And I assume you'll want to go back and see your friends in Ponyville. Twilight hung her head with a solemn frown. Yes. There was a long pause, during which the only sound was the wind gently pressing past their ears. That confirmed Twilight's worries at least. Like her, Trixie hadn't even considered what would happen to them after the display. Now at least, they both realized the implications of no longer having a physical reason to stay together. Was that a good thing? It certainly didn't feel like it. So, said Trixie gently. She was giving Twilight an expectant look. But what is it, Twilight? Hurriedly, the Lavender Unicorn shook her head and forced a smile. Nothing at all. I'll just, She averted her eyes in favor of looking out over the edge of the chariot, feeling particularly cowardly. We should focus. We'll be there soon, she said, by way of deflecting the conversation. Trixie offered no response. Out of the corner of her eye, Twilight could have sworn she saw the soul mare drop her grades to the floor again. Oh, Trixie. As the chariot began its descent through the cloud layer, Twilight focused her mind back into the task at Hoof. If the second event was anything like the first, it was going to take all her concentration to win it. She could think about this later. That's what she told herself, at least. But putting it from her mind wasn't as easy as it sounded. Almost as soon as the fog had cleared from around them, and the sea once again became visible below, Twilight's eyes were drawn towards the stadium. On a reflex, she pushed herself upright and leaned forwards, certain that her eyes must have been deceiving her. "What is that?" she breathed. What looked like some sort of giant stonework pillar stood tall in the center of the arena, where they had faced down the Chimera the day before. It was wide, perfectly circular, rising higher than the stands themselves, with no windows, portals, or anything standing atop of it. Its only obvious function was to stand there and look intimidating. Trixie sidled over to stand beside Twilight. "Obviously, it's the second event," she mused. "They must have put it up overnight." "Put it up?" Twilight repeated. "How? That could have possibly been built in one night, not even with magic." Trixie grunted. "I didn't say they built it, but since the stands are full, it's obviously supposed to be there." They drew near to the stadium, and sure enough, the ambient sound of hundreds of ponies' excited chattering filled the air. Just as the day before, the royal guards pulling the chariot took them in a spiral down towards the stands. Twilight kept her eyes locked on the pillar as they got closer, eager to take in as much detail as possible, in case this was indeed their next trial. But there was very little to take in. Its base covered about half of the arena floor, so there was still a decently sized ring of flat stone between the pillar itself and the stands. Around the edge, spiraling all the way up from the base to the pillar to its pinnacle, was a gradual ramp, for somebody to allow ponies without rings to reach the top. For what purpose, Twilight could hardly guess. Pink inside were circular to grandeur structure, all clothed in red hats and scarves to display hosts. Some of them were prodding the pillar with their hooves, as if to check whether it was solid, and others seemed to be taking things off on notepads as they did. Unlike the day before, there was no great increase of ruckus, as the chariot touched down on top of the wall overlooking the arena. As seeing Trixie hop down the stone, the image on the water screen crossed away, distorted to show them, but no announcement came with it. Feeling a little self-conscious, Twilight offered a smile and a wave in the camera's general direction, whilst the much cooler Trixie simply offered a trademark smirk and pretended to be adjusting her cape's neck clasp. The chariot rattled off and took to the sky again, and in its wake, the small, red, uniformed mare from yesterday hurried over to guide them to their seats. But this time, instead of stopping at the box, she led them further, instead of stairs leading down to the stadium's interior. "I'm just taking you straight to the waiting room," she explained. "Once everybody arrives, somebody will come by to explain the event." Trixie grunted. "That's efficient," she muttered. Twilight managed a little smile. "Somebody obviously heard your comment about musical chairs yesterday." Trixie gave a snort chuckle. They were taken down to the same medieval-looking waiting room as the day before. The mayor looked them at the door, so they let themselves inside as she headed back to wait for the next pair. Trixie hesitated as soon as she got over the threshold, and Twilight didn't notice until she drew up alongside. Already waiting inside were four of their competitors: Earth Twister, his brother, Desert Rose, and Flare. She was smiling at Trixie, but she was not smiling back. A moment passed before the door, clicking shut behind them, shifted her into gear. She stepped forward viciously, and Twilight hurried to follow her. As they passed Flare, Trixie kept her eyes front, but Twilight couldn't help but offer a secret grin as the stallion welcomed her with a warm smile. For all that Trixie painted him out to be, it actually seemed kind of sweet. Either Twilight was missing something big, or Trixie was just really biased. "Hey, what's up?" Earth Twister greeted as they took places on the wall beside him. "Good morning," Twilight said with a smile. "Did you see that massive pillar out there?" Twister asked excitedly. Trixie made a derisive noise. "No, we must have missed it." "Be nice, Trixie," said Twilight, though the remark had brought a wide smile to her lips. "Yes, we saw the pillar. What do you think it's for?" Twister shrugged. "Beats me. It's cool though, right? One of those red uniformed girls told me that it came up from the ground. Oh man, I wish I could have seen it." "From the ground?" Twilight repeated. "How's that possible?" "Apparently it's part of the stadium. They were built at the same time," Twister said sagely. I guess whoever designed this place was a pretty forward bunch. They only bring it up when the event calls for it, so most years you don't even hear about it. So it's been raised in the past, said Twilight, showing Tracy a reprimanding look. Sounds like something my research would have turned up. Tracy rolled her eyes. I told you, no two events have ever been the same. There are 100 different things that pillar could be used for. Twilight opened her mouth, but Tracy cut her off. And don't even think about messing the process of elimination, the Soulmare said firmly. Twilight's mouth closed off. Tracy gave a self-satisfied smirk. The wait for the other competitors was short, but the wait for whoever was supposed to come and meet them was a lot longer. One of the downsides of arriving early, Twilight supposed. When at last the door opened again, all eyes turned eagerly towards it. A small, spiky-haired stallion entered, with one-sided saddlebag slung across his back. To Twilight a moment to recognize him without his sunglasses, but it was, without doubt, the same energized stallion who had come up to her hotel room presented with the entry floors. Alright, guys, sorry to keep you waiting, he said, trying bracelets into the room, letting the door swing shut behind him. If you all gather around, we'll get right to business. Everybody exchanged a glance with their partners before doing as they were asked. They formed a vague line in front of him, Twilight and Trixie at one end, Flare and Rose at the other. The small stallion looked down all wordlessly for a moment. Smiled tight at his lips. Wow, he said. Sorry, it's just so awesome seeing you all standing here. Like, waiting for me to. I mean, I met you all before, but after seeing how you all look on that camera, it's like, woo! Trixie cleared her throat loudly, and the stallion mercifully seemed to get the message. Okay, so here's the deal. We'll divide you into pairs. Twilight started as Trixie sullenly pressed up against her, making it blindly obvious who she wanted to be with. The gesture brought a hint of red to Twilight's cheeks. Rival pairs, the stallion explained, shooting them a look. On the other side of the lair, Flare shot a glance and an obvious smirk in Trixie's direction. Instead of sliding away in embarrassment, Soulmare defiantly held her place against Twilight's coat. And then, basically, the pairs will go out one at a time and take a place at the bottom ramp leading up to the side of that pillar there. I guess you all saw your way in, yeah? Good. Okay then, all you gotta do is wait for the signal, then race up the ramp. First one to the top wins. An expectant silence fell across the room and awaited the explanation. Twilight and Trixie glanced at each other awkwardly, wondering if some kind of pause for effect. That's it, said her Twister. At last, just a race to the top. Yep, the stallion confirmed. There are 30 checkpoints leading up. You gotta pass through every one of them before getting to the top, or else your win doesn't count. Oh, and don't fall off. I mean, there are protective spells and safety stallions in place, so don't worry about turning into a pancake or anything. But if you touch the arena floor after passing through that first checkpoint, you'll be disqualified. Wait, back up a sec, said Twister. What's this got to do with magic? The stallion blinked down for a moment, then eyes wide in comprehension. Oh, right. Well, there's a bunch of traps, pitfalls, magical enchantments, and stuff laid all the way to the top to try to throw you off. The idea is to use your magic as creative as possible to get through. Sorry, I thought that was a given. Twister grunted. Huh. Fair enough. Doesn't seem as exciting as a chimera, though. Well, struck the stallion started rifling around the saddlebag. You want to spice things up a little. You're free to use your magic against your opponent. Like I said, there are safe fall spells in place, so go nuts. Trixie stared at Twilight's side. The Azure Unicorn was tense again, but it was the same as it had been the day before. She didn't seem angry. In fact, as silly as it sounded, it felt more like she was anxious. Twilight's solo attempts to meet her eye were fruitless, though, since they were already pressed up against one another. There wasn't really anything else she could do to offer comfort. Nothing that wouldn't draw an uncomfortable eye from the others, at least. Aha! Said the small stallion, bursting from his saddlebag with a piece of paper in his mouth. He lay on the floor and bent it over to give himself a drawing look again. Okay, so listen up. Here's a hit list of pairings in reverse order, because that's always fun. First, we've got Terry Blossom against Trixie. Trixie seemed to shrink down a little, so he just let out a breath. Twilight was half expecting her to kick off a demanding being paired against Flare, considering how badly she wanted to show him up, or at least complain about having to go last again. But nothing. Then it's Sandstorm against Fount, Distant Rose against Bay Dasher, and Earth Twister against Nightshade. A second passed before Twilight's eyes widened and her breath caught her throat. The stallion looked across to her. That leaves you and Flair up first, Twilight Sparkle, he finished, and I'll be the one to watch.
What a lucky coincidence, said Flair, looking down the row. I've been hoping we might get a chance to test our magic against one another directly.
Trixie scoffed loudly through him a dirty look. Ha! You don't stand a chance against Twilight Flair. You'd be better off hoping that she goes easy on you. Twilight's mouth moved hopelessly as he glanced between Trixie and Flair. It didn't seem slightest in the slightest. Hey, save it for the audience. Yeah? Said the small stallion, bending down to pick up his list. I'm going to go check out how things are doing. You guys wait here and talk amongst yourselves or something. With that, he hurried past and trotted up the stairwell leading up towards the arena. As the short, spiky tail disappeared from Fu, everybody went of wanting to talk over their partners. Flair held his eyes on Twilight, smiling that same warm smile he'd been giving her since yesterday. She couldn't quite bring herself to offer more than a tiny, timid lip twitch in response, but the gentleness of his gaze helped to make her a little less self-confident about competing against him. Tracy shoved her firmly to one side, breaking Flair's eye contact. After shaking her head to clear it, Twilight looked up at the showmare, with a bit unnervingly severe frown on her face. Trixie, She stopped as soon as he started, not quite sure what to say. She knew she was supposed to say something, but... He wants to be easy to beat, said Trixie seriously. Twilight shifted her hose. I know. Don't get me wrong. Your magic is a completely different league to his. Like I said, he doesn't stand a chance against you in an all-out battle of strength. Tracy turned to glare as he talked in a hushed voice to his partner. But you can bet he won't play fair. That struck another chord in Twilight's mind, but she pursed her lips to keep from saying anything. It wasn't that she didn't trust Tracy, but her memories of Flair were clearly outdated. Twilight knew that she had to take any tactical advice with a grain of salt. Just keep your guard up, said Trixie, meeting her eyes again, and don't let him fool you with his chivalrousness. He'll act like it's difficult until he sees a chance to win. Then he'll leave you in the dust. Is that what he did to you? Twilight found herself asking. Trixie's expression wavered, and her gaze fell to one side. There was an uncomfortably long silence, and Twilight knew she hit a nerve. She opened her mouth to apologize, but no words availed her. Just keep your guard up, Trixie muttered finally, looking up to meet Twilight's eye again, and try to focus. We can't let ourselves think about anything other than winning right now. Right, said Twilight, or she even registered what had been said. She knew it was true. She scolded herself for trying to take the conversation in a personal direction. But even so, she said we, Twilight mused. She is thinking about us too. At least, I hope she is. Hey! Came a yell from the stairs. All eyes stared at the small stallion, who had once again appeared. Almost time, guys. The first pair are going to want to head up now. That's you, Flair Twilight. He pointed to each of them in turn, pausing on Twilight, tilting his head. You definitely looked clear with Benming, by the way. A number of the others, Trixie included, raised an eyebrow at Twilight. In an attempt to laugh at the comment off, the lavender unicorn managed to not let nervous. As she kept her head low, she started forward, till she felt her gaze soften as he brushed the comment off. Reaching the bottom of the stairwell, she stopped to cast a look towards Trixie. A pair of supportive eyes stared back at her. The azure unicorn gave a trying nod, though she didn't seem to be able to manage a smile. Unsurprisingly, she was probably peeved that Twilight was the one to be facing her rival. Maybe she was just worried. Selling for the nod and stare, Twilight turned back towards the stairwell, only to find Flair waiting for her at its base. He smiled and bowed his head slightly, gesturing for her to go first. With a certain gulp, Twilight slid past and started her ascent. Flair just followed without a word, and he made her silent way to the very top of the stairs. Coming to a stop when he reached the portcullis leading out to the arena, the same stallion stood by on the lever of the wall, flashing them a smile as he entered. Twilight shivered her hose with anxiety as she stood before the gate. But it wasn't the sound of a murmuring crowd drifting in from the outside wall that did it, nor was it the size of a massive pillar which dominated her view of the opposite arena wall. She kept glancing glances across at Flair, trying to size him up without noticing. He was wearing a confident smile, looking particularly calm where, in his place, Trixie would have been visibly excited. That said, she could see the similarities between them. The way they stood, held their heads up, and made sense that they had the same origins. Unfortunately, nosy that only served to only make Twilight feel less confident, knowing that she was standing next to a professional, without Trixie to back her up.
Nervous,
said Flare, catching one of her glances. No, of course not, said Twilight immediately. Flare stared at her for a moment, or until she turned her eyes away, maybe a little. Flare gave a quiet chuckle.
I wouldn't worry. Not after how well you did in your first performance. I dare say that Trixie might be right. I may not be much of a match against that magic of yours.
Twilight flushed. Well, it all depends on what kind of trials we're up against.
True enough, said Flare, nodding. In any case, I hope you won't go easy on me. I'm eager to see what you're capable of.
Okay, Twilight mused, flashing a quick smile before facing outwards again. It was certainly getting warm. She suddenly found herself very eager to get out there in a nice cool breeze. Another minute or so passed before there came the sound of a horn blast from somewhere overhead. On cue, the red uniformed stallion pulled his lever and the portcullis began to rise.
That horn is what we've all been waiting for, folks! Came the announcer's echoing voice. It's my pleasure to present to you our first competing pair for the afternoon.
Flare doesn't hesitate. He stepped forwards out into the arena, with his calm smile perfectly intact. Twilight was quick to follow, though she definitely kept a comfortable distance between them.
As you've no doubt already noticed, we're here at the Manhattan display are fond of starting things off with a bang. That's why, today, we're starting with two of the most potent competitors from our first event. Fillies and Gentlecolts, please welcome Flare and Twilight Sparkle!
The announcement was met with applause and a great deal of cheering. Twilight couldn't help but smile beside herself. She knew, of course, that she wasn't here for the praise, but it was a happy perk all the same. Not that she ever openly admit that she enjoyed all the attention. As instructed, she and Flare made their way to the bottom of the ramp and waited, values them staying her hoof upon it. It was wide enough that 6 ponies might be able to squeeze on side by side. The slope was rather gradual, so keeping a grip wouldn't be something to worry about. Twilight also acknowledged that there was a wooden door at the base of the pillar, presumably leading to some kind of interior. Which meant that it wasn't completely solid. That probably wasn't important, but she made sure to take note of it just in case. At her side, Flare flicked his mane.
Good luck, Twilight Sparkle.
He said over to the stadium. Twilight offered a smile and a nod. You too.
All right, everybody, settle down, please. Competitors, stand ready. At the sound of the horn blast, you may begin. Best of luck to both of you.
Flare rolled his neck and lowered his head slightly, ready to dash. His face held a confident smirk, much like Trixie's, eyes fixed on the ramp in front of him. Where mine should be, Twilight reminded herself with a shake of her head. She lifted each of her hose in turn and planted them firmly on the stone, narrowing her eyes at the path ahead. The cheering and muttering in the air died down, only till a faint ambience remained. This was it. Don't let your guard down. Do whatever it takes for Trixie. The focus silence blew out for what felt like forever, but Twilight's determination didn't waver. And then, a horn blast rang out across the stadium. Like a shot, the two of them broke into a sprinting start, hooves clopping loudly against the warmer stone on the ramp. Flare pulled ahead almost immediately. His stronger legs carried him faster, giving it a seat advantage. The announcer yelled something about the stallion taking an early lead, but Twilight didn't let it dishearten her. She had her magic tricks up her proverbial sleeve that would help her get her ahead once she needed to. The first checkpoint, a pair of red flagpoles, came up much more quickly than she expected. She passed through it barely a second later after Flare.
And now the race begins, Fillies and Gentlecolts. From here on out, touching the arena floor will be disqualification, and the heat is on for our competitors to look out for traps, decide to throw them off. Whoa! And it looks like Flare has just tripped the first one!
Up ahead, Flare ground himself to a halt as a cloud of white seemed to explode in front of him, with an ear-splitting hiss. Some kind of vent had opened to the side of the pillar. Steam was pouring out across the ramp, blocking the path. You know, guys, all this racing is getting me in the mood to read that one fanfic. I think it's called Earth Sky, that features a race around the world with flying machines. It's a little long, but it's really good. Twilight quickly drew up alongside and came up to a stop, casting about her eyes for some way past. The cloud of steam was completely opaque, so moving around in sight would be dangerous. Not to mention scalding hot. If he didn't know any heat-proof spells, maybe a shield would work. Flare had already figured it out. His horn lit up a deep magenta, his narrow eyes in the cloud. In another moment, Twilight Mane was blown back in her face by a sudden gust of air, as the stallion zipped forward at lightning speed. He caught a swath through steam and left a path in his wake, though Twilight could see him shaking out the moisture from his mane on the other side. Steam was fast moving in to fill in the gap, so Twilight had to take off her surprise and act quickly. She fixed her eyes on the spot where Flare had stopped, and as he poured through the horn as he blinked. As he opened her eyes, he was on the other side of the steam cloud, right behind Flare, wasting little time running onwards. Twilight was quick to give chase. "And that's the first obstacle in a flash!" said the announcer, as he passed the second checkpoint. "Excellent use of a haste spell for Flare, followed by Twilight Sparkle's signature teleport!" The announcer continued to comment and compliment their different spells as they ascended the pillar. Twilight forced herself to stay focused on looking for traps and overtaking Flare. At the fourth checkpoint, Flare triggered a magical glyph that embedded in the ramp. There was a loud BANG! And the stallion stopped in place as his hooves almost slipped out from under him. The very section he was been standing on was covered in a layer of slippery grease, and Twilight found when she stepped on it. Luckily, she was far enough behind as she had caught in the mill, and could see the other side well enough. Another teleport spell saw her overtake Flare and dash onwards to the next checkpoint, while he carefully picked his way across the slithering ground. From there, it was Lady Pony's game, as every other trap they ran into put the lead pony behind the other, only for places to be switched back a few moments until checkpoints later. At the sixth checkpoint, a flock of bats burst out from the hole in the pillar, almost startling Twilight off the edge. At the seventh, she nearly fell through a trick floor. She might well have done if she hadn't seen Flare bound over in a second layer. At the ninth, Flare was caught by another glyph was caused to be covered in sticky green goo. Holding him in place, Twilight tripped over too. She thought quickly, used the heat spell to disperse it. She took the lead. So continued, all the way up the pillar. Traps got more and more frequent as they rose, and the arena floor seemed to fall away beneath them. Twilight made sure to keep the middle of the ramp whenever possible, so she didn't get a chance to look down. It was just after the 23rd checkpoint that Twilight started to really feel the tension. Her legs were already quite achy for the climb thus far, but they were nearing the end, so she knew she had to speed up soon rather than slow down, especially since Flare had just taken the lead again. A metal grate shot out in front of Flare, literally barring his path. As he struggled to push it back into the pillar with telekinesis, Twilight took her chance to teleport past. Not exactly creative, but certainly effective, as the announcer commented. Creativity wasn't high on Twilight's to-do list, just like Trixie had said. Winning came first. "Come on, 25 down, 5 to go," she told herself. "You can do this!" Gah! Twilight scrambled to a halt. A wall of bristling fray saw in front of her, covering the entire path. She lifted a hoof to cover her face, shielding it from the light and burning heat as she backed away. Once the initial shock had passed, she cast her mind about for a way through. A seal spell would hold up against the fire that intense. She couldn't see the other side, so teleporting through would be too dangerous. She either up on the other side, inside the flames, or ultimately into the ramp. Wind spell will only fan the flames. "Come on, think!" She heard hoofbeats behind her. Turning, she saw Flare galloping up around the pillar. Her mind started working in overdrive. She could have let him take the lead, not now, but what could she do? Nothing was the answer. She could do nothing but watch in horror as Flare slowed down, smirked at the flames, and sped up again. He ran straight through so much as lighting up his horn. Twilight got as the fire dispersed in his wake, and an unscathed Flare hurried onwards, sparkling traces of magic fading away into the air. A second passed the silence before Twilight figured it out. "An illusion!" she cursed, spreading out to Flare. "Of course it was an illusion. How could I be so stupid?" Knowing she had to regain some ground, she lit up her horn and raced out to the wind, bending so a breeze blew at her back. It was a minor boost, but she needed everything she could get. She passed checkpoints 26 and 27, dodging around a pressure pad and teleporting over another cliff along the way, before she finally caught sight of his tail again. "They're so close to the end now!" the announcer yelled, excitement clear in his voice. "And Flare has a huge lead, but it's not over yet." Twilight growled and worked her legs harder. "No, it's not." She poured more magic into her horn, upping the intensity of the wind at her back. Flare's flanks came into view. Twilight was gaining ground. She kept her eyes locked on the spot just ahead of him, determined not to give up. They passed the 28th checkpoint, and then... It all happened within the space of a split second. A deafening bang, a burst of compressed air, and Flare was blown out the ramp. Twilight's eyes went wide, but she did have time to think before a vent appeared on the wall beside her as well. And then a probable instinct, she twisted her wind spell into a shield, streamlining her body just as another bang heralded the second burst of air. It caught her straight into the side as she ground her host into the stone, fighting with all her might against the onslaught of force pushing her towards the edge. Wind pressed past her ears, so you could feel her back hoof slipping as he held her stance. And then it was over. Sticking with exertion, Twilight released her spell close to her knees, laying out a pained breath. Her head was spinning, her legs ached. She couldn't remember feeling so exhausted since the Ursa Minor incident. Gentle, steady breath sped her recovery, as did the voice nagging in the back of her mind, telling her to keep going. Listening to the voice, she craned her open her eyes to find herself teetering on the very edge of the ramp, one hind leg hanging out the edge. She hurriedly pulled herself upright, raised her head with a hoof and shook it, reminding herself not to look down. She heard a long grunt. Just ahead, a pair of green hosts scrambled to keep their grip on the ends of the ramp. Twilight let out a gasp as she saw Flare's snout drag its way up into view, whilst the rest of his body hung helpless below. His confident smile was gone. Now his teeth were gritted with effort as he struggled to pull himself up, to no avail. Twilight rushed forwards to help, only to stop herself a few strides away. Whilst effort her mind held to help her pull up, she found herself staring blankly. Whatever it takes. This was her chance. She could run on now, tackle the last two checkpoints, and victories would be hers. There was no way Flare could pull himself up time to overtake her, even manage it at all. It wasn't like she'd be living in real peril. There were spells in place to make sure you land safely. I said to support her. Trixie's eyes rang in her mind. Don't let your guard down, she said. He'll act like a difficult until he sees his chance to win. It could be a trick. He was probably just waiting for her to get close to throw her off and take the victory for himself. That's why I wasn't going to fall for it. Decided, she turned her eyes on the path and tried onwards, past the scrambling hoofs, where her lips held a determined line. She had to leave him. It was the only way that she could be certain to win. There was no other choice. Why didn't she feel like she had a frog in her throat? Ah! Came Flare's wretched growl from behind her. By the sound of scrambling, he was losing his grip until his host stopped moving. Her gaze fell to the ground, and a frown made its way to her face. What am I doing? She asked herself. I can't stop now. I'm so close to winning, but... She turned to Flare, and struggling, his eyes were clenched, shut a long time. There was one moment when she caught sight of those deep blues that seemed so eerily familiar. They were frustrated, determined, but most prominent of all was the hint of dread in them. They weren't asking for help, but they needed it. I'm not that pony, Twilight finished. She spun her body around, rose straight up to the edge, and reached down to grab a forehoof around Flare's, feeling the weight lifted off of him. Flare looked up to meet her eyes. In the moment of staring silence that followed, Twilight offered a gentle smile. His gaze flicked confusedly between her eyes, as if he wasn't sure what to make of the gesture. But then, after a patient few seconds, he tightened his grip on her hoof and accepted her help. Great effort and a little magical assistance, she tried up to the ramp again. She was aware of the noises the crowd was making now, but she didn't pay any mind. While Flare's four hooves once again rested on solid stone, let a released sigh. Chuckling, it took a moment to steady his breathing. Thank you. Twilight nodded and batted her eyes in acceptance. You're welcome. Well, would you look at that? Katie announced his voice. Educated, well-read, and considerate. What a good sport, Phillies to Colts. The crowd offered a cheer of approval, bringing a warm feeling over Twilight, most preferable to the cold sensation she felt when she considered leaving Flare behind. The stallion himself seemed genuinely grateful, and there was clearly no hurry to continue the race. Ah! The race! Remembering herself, Twilight hurriedly faced front and got ready to start running, but Flare didn't take his advantage. Instead, he slowly stared at Twilight and lowered himself to a ready position, as if waiting for a silent signal. Twilight blinked at it with surprise, but quickly refocused by telling herself there would be time to figure things out later. She bent her back close and kicked off and broke into a brisk run. Flare followed suitably immediately after. And they're off again! We're coming out to the final stretch now, and what a touching way to start it off! This is what it's all about, folks. Two honorable sports ponies competing for fame and glory, but never once forgetting. Whoa, watch out! Twilight tripped, pressed her pass, and her sectional ramp tipped to one side, throwing her off balance. She quickly teleported forward to resume her run, whilst Flare cleared herself over a pair of powerful, magic-imbued bounds. They passed the 29th checkpoint together. So high up now that Twilight could see the tops of stands She became doubly aware of the yanking in her legs, but forced herself to keep pace. Slits opened up into the pillar just ahead, and there was a loud clunking noise as wires started flowing out into the ramp in droves. Most of it ran off the edge, but most more came straight towards the pair of unicorns. A knee-height wave of wire. This was the filler's final trap. It went beyond upon them in seconds. They fast Twilight mustered a below-level water-walking spell, and leapt up to nearly run forwards across the wave. On her side, Flare's horn lit up in a powerful light, which cut a narrow light path through the water ahead of him, parting whatever liquid it touched on the other side. As he neared the source of the trap, Twilight put a small, localized shield up around the geysers, stopping the flow of water for a second or so, and she and Flare needed to get past. She stumbled as her host hit the solid stone again, released her spell as soon as she got past. The sky over her head became visible as they came onto the final section of the ramp. As one more circle around, the race would be over. She and Flare were still neck and neck. His pace slowed a little, whilst hers had quickened. A quarter of the way around, Twilight pulled ahead. Another quarter, Flare took the lead. Another, they were tied again. The final checkpoint was in sight. 2 golden flags marking the top of the pillar. Twilight focused on the spot just before the finish line and channeling her magic, prepping for one last teleport. Just as Twilight made the cast, she saw Flare trip beside her, fall straight onto his knees. Examining adrenaline took over as she saw her chance to grasp it, threw herself forward and fired out the spell. She presently soared over the finishing line as she came out of the teleport, letting escape to a halt at the far edge of the pillar's flat pinnacle, to an overwhelming roar of applause. The announcer's voice tore across the stadium, barely audible above all the hollering. Amidst the comments of incredible, amazing, unbelievable, the words Twilight Sparkle winds rang out the loudest. You know, I could have sworn there was going to be some trickery, some foolery, and I dare say, hornswoggled. Twilight's eyes rubbed across the stands before her, taking in the hundreds of ponies looking up at her, stopping their hosts and shouting in awe and approval. Exhausted as she was, she couldn't help let out a relieved and joyful chuckle as she felt the elation welling up inside her. What would Trixie do now? She asked herself in silence, besides turning her nose up and smirk. A playful little urge took hold, as she performed her bestly presence of Trixie's main flick, whilst raising a hoof to wave to her crowd. They seemed to like that, among the cheers. It was naturally inspired a number of whistles, too. So I couldn't remember ever being so proud to be up in front of so many ponies, except maybe at her graduation from school, since her family was there to see her. No steps told of Flare's approach from behind her. She turned her head, expecting to see a dejected or grumpy stallion looking back at her, only to find he was smiling. He didn't say anything, simply sidled up alongside and bowed deeply before her, showing his recognition in front of an audience. A suspicious, nagging thought took to the back of Twilight's mind as she looked down at him. Her lips curled as waffled around. He seemed to pay no mind as he opened his eyes, flashed her one last smile, and then turned to wave at the crowd. Despite his loss, they seemed to appreciate his efforts, and continued to cheer loudly. Not that Twilight could really tell which one of them was being cheered for, but she liked to think of her a couple of yay Flares in there. Yes! Congratulations to Twilight Sparkle for her victory, and to Flare as well for his valiant effort! Thank you both for a wonderful show! A loud thud drew both unicorns' eyes to the platform, where a clean circle of stone floor had shifted out about a hose distance for a low to rest. It slid to one side, leaving a dark hole leading to the pillar's interior. Twilight and Flare exchanged a questioning glance. A moment later, another platform, slightly smaller, rose waiting to fill the gap. Atop it stood a red-scarfed Pegasus mare, who smiled warmly at them. Congratulations! Twilight opened her mouth and probably closed it again, not sure how to react to the mare's sudden appearance. As if sensing confusion, the mare gestured to the platform beneath her and explained, We need to clear the pillar for the next pair. So if you please step onto the lift, I'll take you down to the waiting room. Oh, of course! The Flare gave an unsettled chuckle at her side. When Twilight did her best to ignore, she stepped onto the lift. Flare joined her, and a Pegasus mare stepped off, unfurling her wings and nodding to each of them. Thank you. Please keep your hose on the platform at all times. Enjoy the ride! Twilight cocked her head and managed a little questioning smile as the lift started its slow descent.